Hi Team We Run, Coach Alexa here, coach for Reading, South Oxfordshire and online. Tapering, why, what, how? All great questions. So we've got a few specific coach tips videos that deal with a little bit more of the detail around tapering, but turns out after a good search I certainly can't find one that covers just the whole concept of tapering and what on earth it's all about and how we do it. So let's give that a go today. Tapering is when you drop back your training before a race. So this makes sure that you're fully recovered from all of the training build-up you've done for that race. Your body is full of beans, full of energy. You're not carrying any fatigue from previous weeks or training sessions earlier in that week in the build-up to the race. You go into the race able to fulfill as much of your performance as possible because you've got that tiredness out of your legs and your body's adapted to all of that training. Now, what a taper looks like very much depends on you as an individual quite often, but primarily the sort of race that you're aiming for. So broadly speaking, the longer the race, the longer the taper, because the more you'll have done in training, the more your training your body would have done that it needs more time to adapt to and recover from. So as an example, the average taper for a marathon, and it doesn't have to be one size fits all, is about 3 weeks. So 3 weeks out from your marathon race, you might do your longest long run. Then, generally speaking, distance drops back first because endurance and distance takes longer to build up in our fitness, but also longer to fade. Speed is quicker to build, but also quicker to fade. So we want to drop the endurance back first, then drop the speed back, and then maybe for a marathon, the week before the race, there'll be a couple of little sessions to do, and we want to drop back the strength work a little bit a few days before the race, and then you're good to go. For a race like a 10k or a half marathon, you might take 10 days, a week, 2 weeks for a half marathon of taper instead of the 3 weeks that you would for a marathon. Depends a little bit, as I say, on you as an individual, the training you've been doing, etc. But general rule of thumb is distance drop backs first, speed drops back a little bit later. Try and keep the strength going, maybe drop back the weight and intensity of the strength in a few days to a week before the race. So that's it at a high level. In order to take advantage of that taper, it's good to think about other things we can do for recovery. So sleeping, so inactive but kind of calm, restful time. So when we're awake, reading a good book or watching a lovely kind of comfort film on television. Those sort of things can help put our body in that rest and recovery state where it repairs itself that little bit better. And our body repairs and recovers using as ingredients what we've eaten recently as food. So nutrient-rich food, plenty of vitamins and minerals, fruits, vegetables, legumes, pulses, nuts, seeds, all of that sort of good stuff, as well as protein. So that might be tofu, peas, beans, dairy, meats and fishes. So thinking about all of those little components. The other side of the taper, which isn't talked about as much, is that it has been shown to be useful to try to taper things from a brain's perspective. And I'm completely aware that this is often easier said than done with life and family and work and all of that sort of paraphernalia. There's been a really interesting study that looked at the impact of a mental taper where they reduced the amount of stress that the runners were under in the 3 weeks before a marathon, and they also reduced the amount of time they were having to spend doing difficult mental things like preparing for conversations or meetings or problem solving, that kind of thing, where they're really taxing their brains. So they made that 3 weeks before the race mentally easier and less challenging. They found that meant that the runners had more mental strength for the marathon, so they were able to push on, challenge themselves a little bit more, maintain their pace towards the end, even when their body felt tired, a bit better when they were mentally fresher because of that mental taper. Completely aware that that is very much easier said than done when you are not a professional athlete though. But yeah, the bread and butter of tapering is reducing back that training, dropping back endurance, then speed and strength in that order as you come up to race day, with the aim being that when you get up on race day morning, you haven't got any muscle soreness, you haven't got any niggles, you're feeling your body is fully repaired, bouncing full of energy and good to go for your race. I hope that's useful. Happy running.